everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am going to be sharing my birth story. A lot of you guys know from my Instagram that I delivered our baby girl. So without further ado, this is Alea Ray. Say hi. I just finished feeding her so she has her eyes open. You want to say hi to my channel? So just to clarify, her name is Alea. I've already had some nurses and doctors calling her Alaya, and I'm like, that is not her name. Her name is Alea. Middle name is Ray, and I'm not going to share the last name just for safety reasons, but she is here. She came 4 weeks early, and Jaden actually came 5 weeks early, so my babies do not like to be in my stomach. They somehow find a way out, but it was totally unexpected. I ended up having an emergency C-section, so I'll just be sharing the whole story with you guys and how it all went down. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you're new here, go ahead and click that red subscribe button. I'm going to be having a lot of baby content coming out, and I'm so excited for you guys to go ahead and join the fam. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So I ended up delivering her at exactly 36 weeks. I had my appointment. She's actually 2 weeks today. Today she has made it to 14 days old, so she is officially 2 weeks. Happy 2 weeks. So I had my 36-week appointment, and going to that appointment, I already knew that we were going to be checking a baby's position. I had a feeling that she was still butt down, but I was just hoping and praying that she somehow flipped, because the couple of weeks before she was moving a lot. I wouldn't say her movements were super painful, but they were definitely uncomfortable. I was at the point in my pregnancy where I was starting to get really over it, and her movements were hurting, especially she would kick me right behind my belly button. And that was super uncomfortable for me. I still had no idea how she was positioned. So going to that appointment, I already knew that they had to do that swab test just to make sure you didn't have some kind of infection. I don't really remember which one it was. So that was the first thing that my OB doctor did. She went ahead and did the swab test, and then she went and checked vaginally to see how baby is positioned and if she was head down. And originally she was like, oh, baby's definitely head down, and then she started feeling more, and she was like, and you're 1 centimeter dilated. And right then and there I was so relieved and so happy. And then she was just kind of feeling around a little bit more, and she's like, you know what, I think that might be her bottom. And I was like, oh God. I just kind of knew right then and there that she was still sitting breech. So during the ultrasound, she confirmed that baby girl was still bottom down, which I wasn't really shocked about that. But then she noticed that my fluid level was really low, and she kept asking me if I've noticed any leaking or if my water broke. And I'm like, no, I haven't had anything unusual. And then also the cord was around her neck, not super tight, but it was still just a little bit around her neck. So she told me right then and there that trying to flip her would be extremely dangerous, and especially with my fluid levels being low, that they wouldn't even be able to do that. She did start to tell me that there is a chance with my fluid levels being so low that I could have the baby that day, and everything just started hitting me all at once. I was like, okay, am I ready for this right now? Because I didn't really think I was going to be going into labor. I wasn't having any kind of contractions or anything like that. And I just thought that we had a lot more time. So she actually sent me over to my hospital to go to the labor and delivery. That way they could hook me up to an IV and see if my fluid levels would go back up. So once I left the OB office, I got in my car and I called Drew. Of course, he didn't answer. The one time that I'm needing to talk to him, he didn't answer. And then I just went ahead and called my mom. Drew was at home watching Jaden during the time, and then my mom answered, so I just had her put the phone on speaker, and then her and Drew were both listening. When I get really nervous, I just start crying. So as soon as I told them what was going on, I don't even know why I feel like I'm gonna start crying right now. I feel like it's because I'm very hormonal still, which is super annoying. I cry over the smallest things still, and I'm just ready to get my body back together and start to feel normal again. But it was just one of those things where it was very unexpected. I wasn't ready, and I was also extremely nervous to have a C-section. That was the last thing I ever wanted. I never wanted to have a C-section. I don't know why. There's something about them that are just terrifying to me, and overall it really wasn't that bad. Just the recovery part was pretty bad, but I'll get into that later. But overall, the procedure was very easy. It just wasn't something that I had envisioned, and especially with this being Drew's first child, I wanted him to see me deliver vaginally. He didn't care. Like, he kept telling me like he doesn't care, but that's just something I really wanted. So while I was on the phone with him and my mom, he was already starting to pack his bag. He didn't have his hospital bag packed, but I mean, guys really don't need to pack all that much. I luckily got my bag packed a couple weeks before. I even had my toiletry bag packed and in the bathroom. And every morning I was taking my toothbrush out. That way, if I was in labor and everything was moving really fast, I could just grab my toiletry bag and, you know, not have to worry about forgetting anything, which I'm so happy I did it that way too, because I feel like I would have forgotten something and maybe Drew would have missed something to pack. So I had everything packed and ready. And then I got off the phone with them and made my way over to the hospital. Once I parked at the hospital, I just started crying and had a moment like to myself because I was just a hot mess. I was like super nervous, and I just had this gut feeling that we were gonna have her that day, and not being able to have like the time to mentally prepare for a C-section or even just birth in general was like really nerve-wracking for me. So I just started praying and asking God to like calm my nerves. I was having like, you know, kind of like an anxiety attack, but I was just asking him to make sure, you know, baby's healthy and that if we needed a C-section, I would go safely. So I actually registered for my hospital like 2 days prior. So when I got in, they checked me in pretty quick, and then they got me hooked up to an IV, and then they hooked me up to the monitor, and they were monitoring baby the whole time. They had the fluids in for about 2 hours. Drew actually came about 20 or 30 minutes after I got hooked up to the IV. So he got there pretty quick, and then they did an ultrasound. Her cord was actually not around her neck anymore, which was great, but the fluids were still very low. So the ultrasound tech went ahead and gave all that info to my OB doctor, and my OB then came and said that they want to do a C-section officially, but they were just trying to figure out if they wanted to do it that day or if they wanted to get me scheduled. So she was in contact with the high-risk doctor that was at the hospital, and it took them 4 hours to finally tell us if we were doing it that day or not. It was the longest 4 hours of my life. Drew and I were just, you know, hanging out, talking, trying to like mentally prepare myself for a C-section because it was officially happening. Whether it was that day or not, I was gonna get scheduled for one. So then 4 hours later, the nurses came in and told us that they're gonna do the C-section that day. And then from there on, everything started moving very quick. All these nurses started coming in, getting me ready. They had me take off all of my jewelry, my bra, underwear. They even shaved me, which was super weird. It was like an electric shaver. And then they gave me like a nightgown and like those little hair nets, and then they had Drew put on his stuff, which I will be inserting pictures and videos because I did take some, but obviously I didn't vlog anything because I just like mentally wasn't like ready for that, and I kind of just wanted to like take in the moment, and you know, I just wasn't even thinking about vlogging. But I did get some pictures, so I'll be inserting them in this video. But Drew put on his stuff, and I was like, you look like a painter right now. And then we just ended up having like a bunch of nurses coming in. They were like, you know, checking a bunch of stuff. And then the anesthesiologist came in the room and started telling us about the whole procedure and how they're going to numb me and everything like that. Just getting like my health background. And I would say this whole process took maybe about like 45 minutes, and then they were ready to go. So I would say we probably started walking over to the operating room around maybe 6:45 or 6:50. They didn't let Drew go in, which sucks because I wish he would have been there with me. Because I was just a hot mess. I was extremely nervous, but the nurses were great. They were like, don't worry, you're gonna meet your baby soon. And the whole process of doing the anesthesia is very similar to an epidural. However, I don't know if she messed up or if the process was just a little bit different, because obviously you're gonna be completely numb compared to an epidural. You do still feel, you know, sensation down there, and like you're able to feel your feet and whatnot. But for a C-section, you're obviously completely numb. And she poked my back about 12 to 15 times. I don't know if that's normal. I still want to ask my OB if, you know, that's the normal procedure, the normal amount that they're supposed to poke your back. I've been trying to do research and I haven't even been able to find anything on it. But she kept saying that she was hitting bone. She would, you know, keep asking me if I'm feeling any sensation on my right side, and I'm just like, I don't know, I can't tell. And then the last time that they poked me, they gave me a pillow and told me to like really hunch over, and that was the time that it worked, which is interesting because that's exactly how the hospital did it when I delivered Jaden. And they did the epidural. They gave me a pillow and told me to bend over really far, and that was like a one and done type of epidural. So I don't know if maybe for a C-section they have to poke your back that many times because you're obviously going to be more numb, but it hurt very bad. I will admit that. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it sucked. However, I did feel really good afterwards. And then right away they laid me down. They put the catheter in, and then they put that blue shield up. Next thing I know, I see Drew coming in. Him and I were just talking a little bit, and the next thing we know, we're like looking at each other and we're like, what is that smell? And I was like, did they already start? And she's like, yeah, we already started. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I did not feel anything. And Drew explains the scent as almost like burnt flesh, which is super gross, but obviously they're cutting me open and my insides. It was a very odd scent, to say the least. And I would say shortly after that is when I kind of started feeling a little drugged up. I was very aware of what was going on, but I started to feel just like a little loopy. I also started shaking a lot. I remember like my arms were like shaking, and then I would say she probably came out within 3 minutes or so, and I didn't feel like that much pressure. I know a lot of people say like you could feel a bunch of pressure and like them like you know, like digging you out basically, but honestly I was so numb. I did not feel anything, so it didn't hurt. I didn't feel like really any pressure. And then as soon as they pulled her out, I started feeling really drugged up to the point where I didn't even like notice if she was crying or not. And then as soon as I realized, I was like, wait, she hasn't cried, is when she started crying. And I think it took like a little while for them to get her to cry, which was a little scary for me. But she was born at 7:19 p.m. She was 5 pounds 4 ounces and 18.5 inches long. So she came out super healthy. And then they let Drew cut the cord. They were starting to work on her a little bit, just like cleaning her up, getting all of like the fluids out of her mouth. And then they had to take her away and finish working on me, which they did it super fast. Once again, I was pretty drugged up, and I feel like I can't really remember all that much. That's why I wanted to sit down and do this video today, because I feel like the longer I go, the more I'm gonna forget. So once they got me all stitched up, they started taking down all of the drapes and everything, and then they ended up picking me up. They had me on top of like some kind of sheet thing where they could then transfer me over into a different kind of bed. And then they rolled me out of the room and put me next to Drew and the baby. That is where we started to learn how to latch. They were also just checking like my vitals and everything like that. But at that time I started to feel really, really bad. I ended up throwing up. I threw up 7 times, basically all the way up until midnight. I basically felt really drunk. I felt like I had the spins. I was in my bed this way and the bassinet was over here, and every time I like tried to look, I could like feel like I had the spins and like I was gonna throw up. So that was not fun. And then once they finished doing everything that they needed to do there is where they transferred us into our recovery room. And that's where we met our nurse. Our nurses were super cool the whole time. I'm very happy with the staff there. And Alea was doing pretty good with latching, but we did have to substitute with formula, which I remember we had to do the same thing with Jaden. But she was drinking enough. She was starting to poop enough as well. And she didn't have to go to the NICU, whereas Jaden did because his blood sugar was too low. Luckily for her, she didn't have to go to the NICU, so she was with us the whole time. The first night, I remember we did skin to skin, and I basically just slept like that, like the whole first night, all the way up until the morning time. I remember I was basically like sitting upright. I could not lay down. I couldn't lay to my side because my incision started to hurt, and I could feel all of like the numbing drugs wearing off. But I had like a bunch of pillows stacked, and I just had her on my chest. I wasn't really able to sleep that well. I kept waking up like every 20 minutes, or the nurses would come in, check on us. get her vitals and my vitals. So then the next day my mom was actually able to come to the hospital, which was super cool because we did deliver her during COVID. So originally they were only allowing one support person, but then they opened it up to 2 people. So the first support person, which was Drew, he was able to be there 24 hours, whereas the second one was only allowed to be there from 12 o'clock all the way up till 8 o'clock, which I feel like is super weird. I don't understand why they couldn't just be there the whole time, but that's just the rules of the hospital that we delivered at. So my mom ended up showing up. Let me give you hugs first. Oh. Proud of you. Mommy. Oh my gosh, she's so perfect. Who do you think she looks like? Both of you? Yeah, like kind of a mixture. And then we already had our second nurse for the day. She was super cool. She ended up helping me like put on the mesh underwear, and then she helped me like get out of bed and helped me start walking around. They ended up taking like my catheter out, and the first time that I stood up, it was really weird. I felt like I didn't even know how to really walk all that well, but I was trying like very hard. So she first had me sit on the edge of my bed, start taking deep breaths, and then she helped me stand up very slowly. I wasn't even able to like fully extend my back either because my incision started hurting, so I was like a hunchback lady, like an old lady for like the first week. And then I remember her walking me to the bathroom, and she was telling me, you know, try to go to the bathroom. She even helped me like go and sit down on the toilet, and I like was trying so hard to relax, and I knew I had so much pee, like I could feel it, but I could not push it out, and it was so frustrating. I was like, oh my gosh, like why can't I pee? So I called for her. She helped me get back up, and she's like, don't worry, just start drinking a lot of fluids, you'll end up peeing. So then I would say maybe like an hour later, I like was drinking so much water, so much fluids, that I then finally peed. It was the weirdest thing because I felt like I didn't even really know how to pee. Also, passing gas is very important. Any kind of surgery like that, your bowels shut down temporarily. So they will not discharge you until you start passing gas. Try to eat as much fiber foods as you can. They didn't even tell me. Like the first night, I ended up ordering for breakfast. I had like waffles, like all of this food that would basically back me up. Where when they started expressing how important it is to pass gas and have a bowel movement is when I started ordering the hospital food, like very fiber foods, because it is so important. Like I'm still taking Marillax or taking Colace, and I'm like already 2 weeks postpartum, and I'm eating a bunch of fiber because I have gotten constipated so many times already. It's awful because obviously after having a surgery like that and trying to pass gas or go to the bathroom, it's the hardest thing because you don't want to hurt your incision, but you also don't want to get backed up. So it's very important to be taking stool softeners, eating lots of fiber like prune juice, dried prunes, anything like that I feel like is extremely important. But I ended up passing gas, which is super TMI, but this is just, this is how C-sections are. And these are things that I did not know about surgery in general. So I'm giving you guys all of the details in case if you're somebody like me that didn't really know how it all works. And then they also started expressing to me how important it is to walk. They're like, the more you walk, the faster you're gonna heal, which I was like, that seems really weird because I was in so much pain from my incision. I had a lot of nerve damage, which I still have a lot of nerve pains. And just walking, like literally I was walking like a grandma. And I was like, how is this going to help me? I don't understand it. And I think I made the mistake even when I got home, like for like the first week, I was not walking enough. And I got the worst trap gas. So bad to where I can even still feel it in my shoulders occasionally. It's pretty much gone now, but it was like all in my chest, like underneath my boobs, to the point where I was even feeling it in my face. And it was just sharp pains, like it was awful, guys. So as soon as they start telling you to walk, you need to walk. So when my mom left the hospital, it was around like 8 o'clock. Drew and I started walking around the hospital, and it was not easy. We didn't really walk as much as I probably was supposed to, but I would say as soon as you get discharged, go home and just walk around your house. Try to, don't push yourself too much, but definitely try to keep yourself moving. Don't just lay around and be lazy like how I did, because it's so not worth it. The trap gas is excruciating and it sucks. So after we walked around, we had a nurse come in, and this is when they started to do a lot of her tests. I can't really remember like what order they did them, but I do remember that Alea ended up getting jaundice. She ended up having a pretty high level, and they had to keep her underneath the billy lights. I don't really fully understand how jaundice works, but I know it has something to do with her liver and not being able to push out all of the red blood cells. So basically her liver wasn't working properly, and it was causing her skin to look very yellow. So laying under the blue lights is supposed to help with that. I don't really understand how it all works. So she was under them from 10 o'clock at night all the way up until 7 o'clock in the morning. And then her jaundice was gone, and then they ended up saying that we will be able to get discharged if she passed all of the rest of her tests as well. She passed her hearing test. She also passed like her newborn screening test, her heart, all of her organs, everything like that was all passed and great. And then they also checked on my incision, and I asked them if like that burning sensation was normal, and that's where they then told me that that's just your nerve damage. The nerve damage can take up to a year to fully heal, but the incision itself should take 4 weeks. And then once we were able to take her out of the lights, Drew did skin to skin with her for the first time, which was super cute. And then later on that day, my mom came back to the hospital. She's having a dream. Are you okay, mamas? Oh. So my mom ended up coming back to the hospital the second day. They did give Alea her first bath, which we weren't really too pleased on how they did it because the room was very cold. That's the one thing I did not like about the hospital. The room was very cold, or it would get really hot when we would try to put on the heater. But once the heater would turn off, it would then go back to AC, and we couldn't adjust it. It was just really weird. And for her being underneath the lights, we were trying to keep her warm because they can't have any clothes on them. So she was waking up like every 20 minutes, just not happy, and I wanted to hold her so bad, but we couldn't because she needed to be under the lights for the amount of time. So that second night was pretty rough for us. We didn't get like any sleep. And then when they were doing her bath, it was like super cold in the room. She was crying, but I will insert a video so that way you guys can go ahead and see that. But we weren't really too pleased on the way that they did it.
It's like lukewarm water, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hi, sweetie. Oh,
So cute.
he had a nice bath. She only has one eye open. And then later on that day is when they started bringing in like all of our discharge papers, her stuff for her birth certificate and her social security, just getting all of the very important paperwork that we needed. And then they ended up doing a car seat test. Since she's 5 pounds 4 ounces, she's at a weight where she's very small. We actually had to buy her preemie clothes when we got back home because she did not fit anything. But since she was so small, they had to make sure that she was able to pass her car seat test, where they basically just check her oxygen level for an hour and a half. So she was in the nursery for an hour and a half, but that was the only time that she had to go there. And then they ended up discharging us. We got home very, very early. I thought for a C-section you're there for like 4 days. We were only there for 2 days, so it was very fast. And I wanted to get home. As much as I wanted to kind of stay there and ask, the nurses more questions, it was kind of one of those things where we just really didn't need to. They did all of their tests. We got all of our paperwork. She was latching pretty well by that point. So I was like, I just want to be in the comfort of my bed. I wanted to take a shower. Like I didn't even want to shower there because I was so scared of like my incision. Like I just wanted to do it all at home. So we got discharged. It was about, I would say 9 o'clock at night. And then when we got home, she met my dad and Jaden for the first time, and I'll go ahead and insert videos of that as well. We're getting discharged. You ready to go meet your big brother? You want to meet Big Brother? Hi, Jay. I missed you. I missed you so. Oh, look at your new toy. Hi. You're gonna meet your little sister right now. You excited? Go, go, go. Who is that? What's her name? Alea. This is Alea, Jay. Go ahead.
Stand right now.
We're going to their forest.
Go ahead. You can do that. Oh, Jay, you're so sweet. Is this weird?
Her cry all the time.
Come on. She's little.
Her cry all
She's gonna cry all the time.
Fine, she slept all night. Mariah, I was just trying to drive like so.
Do you want to hold her, Jaden?
Yes.
You do?
Especially for her. Let's start also.
You went to the park? You went to the park today? Yep. Okay, you gotta be very careful because my belly.
We rode
My
together.
belly hurts
Does
really
it hurt
bad.
more?
Huh?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
How's your sutures?
You want to see? I'd have to wear this for a little while.
Big band-aid.
Mom,
That's a big band-aid.
Mom, the boo-boos. Mom, the boo-boo. Mom, the band-aid take off.
It came off.
Yeah. And when we were dressing for the park,
Is it weird? You're gonna protect her, huh?
I don't know if we're gonna use this tonight or not. I'm just gonna put it over here.
Look at her hair. Her name's Alea.
She's got a lot of hair. Kiss
Oh, Jay, you're such a good big brother.
She liked that.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, she goes, that felt good.
I did want to explain everything that happened after her birth. I feel like some of you guys that are watching this video might be interested on how the recovery part is, which I'm going to be doing a full video on recovery tips. There's a lot of things about C-sections that I wish I knew beforehand, so definitely stay tuned for that video. I'm going to be doing a video on that very soon. But yeah, guys, that is all for today's video. I'm so happy to introduce you to our new addition to the family. I'm very excited to start vlogging again and uploading baby videos. I just have so many video ideas that I want to start filming. So if you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I'm gonna have a lot of video content coming for you guys soon. So yeah, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Mwah.